Good evening, people. Welcome to the Monday Night Football Show. It is myself, it is Ryan, it is Colin, currently travelling home from work. And we also have a guest this evening. We have Curtis, also known as FM Play CFC. Thanks for joining us, pal.
You're welcome.
And we just had a really professional start there. I thought, we'll have a bit of music for ourselves before we sit on the couch and talk football. And then I heard myself playing back. Always top quality not to mute Twitch when we start. But we're going to have a run through the Premier League action, Curtis, and just see what our thoughts are on the weekend's games. And then we'll have a quick run down some of the European leagues, discuss the fact that Dortmund dropped some points at home, which was a bit of a shock to myself and Colin. But we're going to start with the big game of the weekend, I would say, which was the Tottenham-Man City game. Ryan, with Tottenham winning the game 4-1, I don't think anyone expected that.
No one expects it with the form that Man City have been in. Tottenham being precarious up front, to say the least. Now they've come out and beaten Man City 4-1. As a Man United fan, I'm proud.
Brilliant, proud. Yeah, you worked well for that result. Curtis, I think when you saw the likes of Joe Hart and company obviously not playing in the game, and then playing away, and obviously since City started in the Champions League, it's not been going too well for them.
Yeah, I think City. I was saying to a friend the other day. As soon as some of their key players are injured, they're very vulnerable. And I actually predicted them to finish fourth this season because of the players they brought in. I thought Sterling would be a liability because he's been in the papers for the wrong reasons. And I thought over the course of the season, they just, get these injuries and lose form. So it's starting happening already, and I think that will happen over the course of the season as well, throughout the season. David Silva, as soon as he gets injured, they just lose it. They can't handle it.
They're definitely missing something. I mean, what I noticed, and I don't know if you thought this, Colin, but the fact that Joe Hart missed the game due to a back strain, yet they made him travel down. They made him sit on the bench for the match, and then they made him travel home. Surely it would have made more sense to have him resting up or going to the training ground and getting some treatment.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting. I think obviously Willie Caballero in there was a big issue. I think the second goal was clearly gross mispositioning on his point for the header in from Toby Alderweireld there. I think the game was also as much about off refereeing and missing a lot of offsides as much as it was that Tottenham just dominated in Man City. I agree with Curtis. I think Man City doesn't have the depth, I think, to compete at the level that they were competing at, and anytime they hiccup, they're just so scary, vulnerable. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly they can get back to health on this one.
I think, Ryan, I think one of the biggest talking points of this game, and I think it is something that has to be spoke about, is the fact that I think it was 3 of the 5 goals were offside. Or was it 4 of the 5? It was something stupid.
Something stupid like that. Strange decisions. I don't know whether the linesman could have been a Man United supporter, could have been a Spurs supporter, just wanted Man City to lose.
I think everybody was talking about how City were going to run away with the league when it started, and I think it's kind of pulled everyone back in with a chance. I mean, even the likes of Chelsea now, who fell so far behind, are now slowly closing the gap. The next game, in my opinion, was the shock of the weekend, which was Leicester 2, Arsenal 5. I think with the way Leicester started the season, the Tinkerman not really tinkering and putting out a decent squad. Vardy actually looking really, really a good, solid player now. He's getting better, it seems, every time I watch him play. Arsenal just completely tore them apart, Curtis.
Yeah, I mean, Arsenal, they're just one of those teams, they're not consistent. They can play, good football on the day, but just other times they just look average. I think Leicester, they come unstuck really trying to play Arsenal at Arsenal's game. I think that's why they dropped those points. I think if they were more defensive against Arsenal and just tried to keep the possession instead of counter-attacking, I think they might have at least got a point from it, personally.
Yeah, I think trying to play Arsenal at a passing game, it was never going to end well. I think I know a lot of people say, "Oh, Sanchez got a hat trick." That's him back in form now. I don't think you can judge him on one game. He needs to start scoring more regularly in the second season, Ryan. I think it's that second season syndrome again for players who come from abroad.
Yeah, I mean, he's a fantastic player, no doubt.
Don't get me wrong, yeah.
If he can go on a scoring run for now, then eating our words, and hopefully we see the form he had last year.
I know, obviously, the as you would expect after the result, it was all about it. Clearly, Arsenal don't need a new striker because Walcott and Giroud scored. They still need a new striker. Giroud takes 10 to 15 chances before he puts one away. And Walcott's a winger Walcott reminds me of just a school child who's just desperate to play up front. And it's like, no, you're not that good, go and play in defence. And he's like, come on, let me play up front, please. And it's just getting ridiculous now. Go on, Colin.
There was an interesting set of commentary on the U.S. broadcasts around it that had talked about how much Wenger was glad that Sanchez's conversion ratio is coming back in, and how much he looks at each of the players' conversion ratios, and which is why he's content with keeping the striking core and the attacking core, because he feels that Arsenal's conversion ratio on shots to goals as a team is acceptable as where it needs to be to achieve the goals. And I thought that was a really interesting sort of perspective, because I agree. I think from a pure striking perspective, they're more vulnerable than I thought they would be. The creativity seems to be picking up. I think Ozil in the midfield is playing better. But I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens if you have somebody like a Wenger who has such absolute control over what Arsenal does transfer-wise, that if he's content with the goals-to-shots ratio being where it is and sort of allowing goals to come from everywhere, what that really means for the team in terms of a bigger, broader aspiration in the league and the Champions League.
I think it's if, and this was a big if, because I would love to actually, in fact, you know, as soon as this is over, I'm going to actually go and check all them stats, because I genuinely can't believe that Giroud shots to goals ratio is good. I genuinely can't believe it. That guy hits more people in the crowd than he does the back of the net. So I'm definitely going to be checking that out. But we'll move on.
I think it's more of a team perspective as opposed to just a Giroud or a Walcott or a Sanchez, that if the whole squad's hitting it, 20% or 30% or whatever it is, that was where that was something they said he was content with.
Yeah, but surely, come on. I mean, if Sanchez is coming in, he's had 3 shots, 3 on target. That's going to give it 100%. Then if Giroud missed 3, it's still going to be a 50%, even though he's hit someone in the crowd 3 times. So
sure, and I don't necessarily agree that I don't think it's the right measure for the team, but
no.
It was just an interesting conversation I was listening to.
Yeah, definitely an interesting way to look at it. Go on, Curtis.
Yeah, realistically, what striker should Arsenal get that's on the market right now that would actually go to Arsenal that can score, say, 20 plus goals a season? Can you think any off the top of your head?
I mean, genuinely, I think we all know Arsene Wenger has a secret love-in with France. Being French obviously kind of helps her. I genuinely don't understand why Lacazette from Lyon is not at Arsenal yet. He suits what they like. He's young. He's not going to be stupidly expensive. He's not going to want stupid wages. I genuinely don't understand why Arsenal haven't gone in for him. Or just somebody else from the French league. He loves to bring players over from the French league. He got Giroud from there. So I mean, I don't understand why he hasn't thought about that again. He just seems so reluctant to dive in. But I mean, when you say who could Arsenal get, technically they could get anybody because they've got the money. And at the end of the day, anybody can be bought. I mean, if they said to Benzema, we'll give you 300,000 a week, he's not going to say no. And they've got the money to do that. So I think it's not so much as in who can Arsenal get, it's who do Arsenal want to get. And that's where the issue is. It appears to be nobody. Go on, Colin.
I was actually really floored that Martial didn't go to Arsenal, because to me, that was an ideal Arsene Wenger pick.
There's been a lot of arguments about that, hasn't there? I can hold my hands up and say I haven't read the post, because when I saw the sports sites advertising that they've got a post where Arsenal have criticised him and stuff, I just looked and thought, I'm really not interested. But I think the blunt of it was they said he shouldn't be played as a striker. But
I mean, to me, he was the stereotypical Arsene Wenger pick, right? It was a drifty scoring, a goal scorer with a lot of assist potential, creative, but also that young, high potential French star. I just really thought the stars had aligned, and I figured that United going after him, all that was going to happen was it would trump up the price to a really, really high level. But it just seemed so the perfect pick for Wenger, and I was really surprised when that wasn't where he landed.
Well, I think Ryan, you look through it. What's happened? I mean, when we did one of the first ever shows we did, Arsenal just signed Danny Welbeck, and they were linked with so many people. Then they end up getting Welbeck. Then they get linked with loads of people. They get linked with Schneiderlin, which they need. They get linked with more defence midfielders. They get linked with strikers, Cavani. Turns out Arsenal didn't want to buy him because there's no resale value. Just seriously stupid. And you go through, and I mean, why didn't they get Schneiderlin? Why didn't they get Cavani? It's always just why. Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? Genuinely comes across like they're scared, Ryan, just to spend the money.
It's always come across like that. But I find it interesting that you say you don't think Lacazette would cost a lot. I think he would actually cost quite a bit.
Sorry, I'm referring compared to prices that are going around in the world of football at the minute.
I think he's outside the range that Arsenal would be willing to pay.
Really? I don't think he would cost more than 25. Bear in mind, Ryan, he's at Lyon. He's not at a Monaco or PSG. He's at a club who are not the richest in France. 25 million, I think, is an amount of money which Lyon would look at and say, we can strengthen with signings from inside France with that. We can buy 2 or 3 people.
They could, but obviously Arsenal aren't willing to spend, or maybe they just don't want him.
Just think Wenger likes the money. He's getting a lot of interest in the bank. The next game... Sorry, go on, Curtis.
He sees the money like it's his own. I think that's a good thing for business in the long term. Actually having a club earning money over a certain amount of years. But when it comes to success, trophies, I think it's just going to backfire against you. Strikers I was thinking of, outside of... real expensive strikers that you think of straight away. Charlie Austin. I mean, some people be thinking, Charlie Austin.
It's a good shout.
Yeah, he just knows. I've watched QPR last season quite a lot, and he just knows where the net is. I mean, obviously a striker should know that, but he just seems to be really good instinctively. And you could probably get him for less than 10 million. I think so, anyway.
Well, I mean,
I don't know if
they can't get him because we want him. He's going to come to Newcastle, I'm afraid. So
yeah, that's what I heard as well. I heard Newcastle are interested in him.
That's if he wants to come and live in a bubble, according to Gary Neville. But we're going to the next
championship. Why would he want to go back?
Oh, come on, Colin. Don't get too negative. We're going to the next game. It was Liverpool 3, Aston Villa 2. The battle of the struggling sides. Daniel Sturridge comes back in, and what a difference, Curtis, this man made.
Yeah, he's a game changer. Sturridge, when we released him, or shall we say we sold him at Chelsea, I think the only reason why we sold him is because he's injury prone. I think they've just seen the writing on the wall for him. Injury prone player, maybe he can't get a full season out of him. But he's just one of those players, he's just a game changer. And I think he really suits how, Rodgers plays. Benteke, good player as well. I think, Rodgers, it weren't easy for him with Henderson being injured. People also forget about Gerrard leaving. There's that, he's missing from the dressing room. And I think all of the stick he's been given and all the, news coverage he's been given, I think it's a little bit unfair, to be honest.
Yeah, I think, personally, I'm sick of it because he plays some good football. Now, when Sturridge was on the pitch, you could see exactly what the football is meant to be. But missing that player, and obviously the likes of Suarez going, the likes of Henderson obviously not playing, like you said, Gerrard the driving force in the middle. There's a lot of changes. What I do think is the defence has a lot of issues, Ryan, and Emre Can, I just wish they would stop putting him back there.
Right, he's one of these. He's like the Phil Jones of Man United. They play him at right back, play him at centre back, play him in midfield. Where's his strongest position?
Well, I mean, I always thought he was a central midfielder, but obviously they seem to just stick him everywhere. But he genuinely looks better when he's on the ball and he's moving. But I mean, talking about Can, obviously he come over from Germany, and there was reports that obviously Liverpool fans were going to dress up as Jurgen Klopp. I just think it is so disrespectful. I think Liverpool fans seem to have forgot how long it is since they won the Premier League, and they seem to think they have some sort of right to win it. And they are competing against clubs who are spending large sums of money to bring players in. I think when you look, 30 million on Benteke is a large amount of money. Completely agree. But the money that's gone off the wage bill with some of the players who've gone recently, it's going to save so much money that they can afford to spend that much on a player. And Benteke will come good. I think Benteke being able to lay the ball off for the likes of Sturridge coming in and just adding that different. You've got Sturridge is able to play the 1-2s, Colin, with Coutinho, for example, but there's also the option to knock it up to Benteke for him to lay it off for Sturridge. So I think the options are there. I just think Liverpool fans are jumping on Rodgers quite a bit.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess, is Liverpool really different from a Barcelona and a Real Madrid or a Bayern Munich in that coaching sense, right? It's a big, storied, historic club that's a dream job for a lot of people. I suspect it doesn't matter who takes that job. 5 minutes into it, there's always going to be the next bigger, better guy sitting out there being linked with it. So I think that's just a reality of the job. But that being said, I'm not sure that the pieces of the puzzle are fitting. I agree. I think Liverpool did a decent job with transfers this offseason. I think they put together a squad that's better than last season's squad. But 2 years ago, you had world-class guys, and you had a world-class squad playing. You don't have that world-class squad anymore. I think people need to be realistic that it's not at the level. It's not at that level. They're not a top four. They're not a top two. I don't see them as a challenging squad. That being said, if you want to go there, I think I'm not sure Rodgers is the guy who's going to take you there, but I don't think he's alone. The flip side is it's way easier to fire one guy than it is to fire 11. So I suspect that if these struggles continue, he'll be let go. There'll be some more grumbling and sort of mid-lying play, and then a deeper look, sort of down the abyss to see what they really want to be.
It's going to be interesting. Definitely going to be interesting to see what happens if they do kind of panic sack and get rid of him. Ryan, obviously, Rudy just said was the main reason that Aston Villa looked like they were going to do something in the game.
Yeah, he's been possibly their best player for Villa this season, scoring the 2 goals, if I remember rightly, and shows both defences are average, to say the least. No marking on the goals that Guskes scored. Needs to improve.
I think average has been polite.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Do you guys think Aston Villa have a Premier League team? Just looking at them.
Yes.
I'll jump in and say I don't think so. I think they're a relegation place team.
I think when you go through some of the other teams in the Premier League, I genuinely think they've got a better side than some of them.
Yeah, I was thinking to myself when Lambert were getting pressure, under pressure. I was looking at their squad. I'm surprised they've stayed in the Premier League so long. Really.
I think they've done a lot of good deals recently. Like getting in the likes of Sinclair and stuff, and just trying to build a better team. I think it's definitely better than it was.
And they've been in the Premier League so long as well.
Obviously, you talk about the likes of Liverpool with the history. Obviously, in the 80s, Aston Villa won the European Cup, so they've got some pedigree. If we go on history,
I think the best Aston Villa squad I've ever seen was under Martin O'Neill.
Yes, definitely. And they're definitely not the same side now. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do. But obviously, talking about relegation, the next game, Ryan, is your club Manchester United beating Sunderland 3-0. I'm sure you were happy with that, but I'm sure you didn't expect anything else.
No, expected a win from this game. Sunderland, very average, but that's to say the first half wasn't the best for both teams. It took until the very near enough the last kick of the first half to actually get a goal in the game. But then the second half, Sunderland just collapsed and didn't look like they'd come out of the changing room.
Probably really fell asleep with Advocat's halftime talk. It looks like he's probably going to be gone, not sacked. He's probably going to walk. Every single interview he does, he mentions he's going to have to take a look at stuff. I think he just doesn't seem interested. Maybe it's getting close to retirement. He's just thinking, I don't have to put up with it, because the players obviously don't have any interest in playing football.
He looks defeated already.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen Fletcher's just hoping he can get another Lamborghini next time he scores. It's the only reason he's turning out on the pitch, because they are so poor at the minute. I mean, even as a Newcastle fan, I feel sorry for the Sunderland fans, because they look so poor, and they will go down if drastic things don't happen.
See, I don't mean to, cause any offence to Sunderland fans, but when I look at the Sunderland squad, it seems like they're like the rejects from other clubs. They just can't get them together playing good football in the league ever. I think they should invest in young talent, bring young talent through, and because they've got a decent balance as well, bank balance, haven't they? They've spent money in the past anyway.
I was going to say they've always spent money, yeah, but
yeah, and they've always bought injury-prone players as well.
I think I know they've been a bit unlucky, the fact that Jermaine Defoe's had quite a lot of chances recently and he's not put them away, but I think it's strange that they sold Connor Wickham as well. That was definitely a strange one.
Last season, towards the end of the season, he was amazing, I thought. He tried, he had a good work rate.
It's definitely a strange move. Maybe he didn't want to live in the bubble. Colin, the next game was Southampton 3, Swansea 1. Swansea haven't won a game since they beat United.
Yeah, little odd. I mean, it's nice to see Southampton rebounding a bit. I'm always kind of impressed with their ability to sell talent and sort of renew themselves, and I thought this year was starting off to be a bit of an aberration in that they started off slow, so it's nice to see them get out of the gate. Interesting to see what's going on in Swansea with Gary Monk's guys. Yeah, they've floundered a bit. They didn't look particularly good either. Gomes went out on a big scoring spree and seems to have cooled way off. I'm not sure I have a good feel for what the problems are, but there's definitely problems there.
I think as long as they stick to the base of how they play, I think they can get themselves out of it, Ryan. I would think they're definitely a good side. They just obviously have just had a couple of bad results go their way.
Yeah, it's like you say, they're one of these teams, they'll pick up, they'll have fantastic form, and then all of a sudden they'll just drop off for a couple of games, and then they'll come back and be on a massive run.
Yeah. The next game, Curtis, was Stoke against Bournemouth. Now I think everybody's starting to feel sorry for Bournemouth, because it appears that any player who they've got who's quite decent is going to get injured.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really followed Bournemouth that much this season, but I have heard that from a friend who's, he does follow him because they play near where he lives, and I've heard about their injuries. I
mean, Wilson going down at the weekend, Ryan. I mean, that's a major loss, because his conversion rate and just all-round stats were that of Charlie Austin last season, obviously topping it and doing well.
Yeah, if he comes back well and picks up that form, then he'll be absolutely fine. But it's a massive, massive loss to Bournemouth, because he's been their main man up front. Interesting to see. Now, I mentioned nothing today.
Go on, I'll do it for you. Former Coventry lad.
I wasn't going to say it.
You were.
You're the one getting in. No,
you were.
I wasn't.
If people who listen every week, you know he was going to do it. Every single week.
I can think it.
How old is he? How old is he, Wilson? About
He's
24,
only
is he?
early 20s, I think.
Oh, okay.
Ryan should know. He's a former Coventry lad. Ryan, how old is he?
23.
It's just a guess.
Do you think they can stay up?
No. They're getting hit with too many injuries. The fact that they spend 8 million on Mings and he's out. He was a decent player. And then Wilson is literally their main goal threat. So for him to be out, it's a major, major loss. They definitely had a good side. They're a good footballing side. But I think
good footballing side, yeah.
I think they're going to keep slipping up, and just these kind of results like the 2-1 against Stoke are going to happen a bit too often. I would say I would like them to stay up, but there's not many teams worse than us, so I kind of have to hope all these teams go down. But Stoke and a 2-1 victory, fair play to Stoke, because they haven't started fantastic. They've obviously made some decent signings in the likes of Shakira. Obviously he's not singing too much, but he's trying. What's your thoughts on Stoke? Obviously they're trying to kind of rebrand themselves, aren't they, Curtis?
Yeah, I think Stoke, when they get the teams, the players playing, good with each other, it's still early stages with this new squad. I think they'll do good. I think Mark Hughes, when he got the Stoke job, I was a little bit took off guard because how he did with QPR. He did really bad with QPR. Got some decent players in as well, but I think they'll do good. I've got a good feeling they can, mid-table.
Yeah.
I think got some Shaqiri though. The Shaqiri buy, amazing.
It's a decent buy, but I'm curious to see how he does week in, week out. Whether he's going to keep putting in a shift, because if not, I think Hughes will get a bit sick. There's got to be a reason for why he keeps moving clubs.
He's just one of those managers. Is 50-50.
Yeah. The next game, Colin, was West Ham 2, Norwich 2. Good comeback by West Ham. I would have liked to see Norwich get the victory. They're a decent side. As long as Jay doesn't hear this. If he does, I hate them. So, Colin, can you see Norwich doing well this year? They started fairly decent.
I think your point that there's not a whole lot of teams playing worse than Sunderland and Newcastle this year will probably play into their hands. Are they mid-table? No, I think they're sort of mid-pack of the bottom. So I'd call them mid-table of the bottom, middle of the bottom half of the table. I can see them surviving. I think they were well prepared coming back up to the Premier League, right? They knew what it was like. They knew what it was like to be there. They had survived for a while in the league. So this wasn't a complete surprise to them. I really think, given West Ham's form, they're so streaky. They beat the teams you'd never expect them to beat, and then they go in and struggle mightily against teams they have no right to struggle against.
Yeah.
I think
yet he's sitting in third place.
Yeah, I know.
It's so confusing, isn't it?
Can I ask you guys what you thought of Allardyce not getting his contract renewed?
Oh, that was stupid. So again, it's another incident where the fans have got what they want, basically. Because he wasn't playing the West Ham way, which is obviously relegation of the Championship and then promotion and relegation and stuff. I don't know, the West Ham fans, obviously, they've been blowing too many bubbles, the soap's gone in their eyes. Because I don't know what they think they were looking at. But
every trophies.
Go on, Colin.
Said everybody likes trophies.
That's it. Obviously, you never know. They'll go down. They can win the Championship again, maybe. There's a trophy for them.
Yeah, to me, that game was as much about how poor West Ham played as well as how well Norwich played.
Yeah.
It was just so up and down.
Obviously, West Ham, the main aim is to stay in the Premier League for the move to the Olympic Stadium. If they carry on, they're going to be still up there at the end. As you say, against the bigger teams, they're doing well, which is what they need. If they can start sorting out results against the smaller teams, then fair enough. Last year, they were actually a team I quite liked, and I wanted to see them do well. The fact that they let Allardyce go for a shocking reason kind of put down on things a bit. You kind of want to see them do okay, so the Olympic Stadium looks nice next year, packed out and stuff. But
They
We'll
also
see.
started off pretty well last season as well, didn't they? Like Downing were playing good football in centre and midfield, and they just faded off towards the end.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be interesting to see if they can sustain it all the way through. But the next game is obviously a game that involved us, both of our teams, Curtis. So it's Newcastle 2, Chelsea 2. What's your thoughts on it?
I think with Newcastle, anyway, talking about Newcastle here, I think it was good seeing them play with two up front. I think that's what they've needed, and I was going to say that about Liverpool earlier. I think Liverpool should play with two up front all the time, if Sturridge is fit. Newcastle, I mean, I said to my friend who was a Newcastle fan, I says, they'll end up, they lost against Sheffield Wednesday, and they're going to end up doing good against Chelsea, guarantee it.
Sheffield
it's just they need to do.
reserves.
Yeah, I mean, they need to do this on a consistent level. Just play with two up front, show passion, try and get the ball back, show a bit of energy. But if I was a Newcastle fan, I'd want to sort the defence out, personally. That would be the main thing I'd want to be changed.
Defence-wise, we Colaccini's too old now. He needs to move on. He's a bit clueless. The rest of the defence isn't too bad. Obviously, the new kid at left back, who's a right back naturally, he destroyed Pedro for the whole game.
Yeah.
I mean, Pedro's starting to see the pace of the Premier League in the last few games, and he looks a bit lost. He looks like he's getting a bit scared of the pace, I think.
Yeah, it reminds me a bit of Ozil when you were, first season at Arsenal. They need to get that cardio up. It's just insane. Yeah. The level of football in Premier League.
He was definitely looking tired at points. The two up front, I definitely agree with. I think you as well, Colin. It was pleasing to see a 4-4-2 because there's pointers putting that extra man in the middle because we were just as crap. So you might as well stick two up front because with five in the middle, we're still not good enough to control the midfield.
No, I would
long
agree.
Ball.
Yeah.
And I think Perez and Mitrovic up front are a very interesting duo. I think the big key to that is Mitrovic has to keep his head on straight.
Oh, big shout out. He lasted the full game.
Yeah. The fact that that's a big deal is something that
I was so proud. I was like, yeah, man. He'll have men on the pitch.
But I think I agree with Curtis totally. I think there's a defensive issue, right? As soon as they sat back to try and close the game out, it just all started to unwind. My guess is if they had kept it on the front foot, they probably could have pulled all 3 points out. But as soon as they got into that defensive setup, they just got they just got pulled apart. If it wasn't Willian's set piece, there were more goals in the run of play there coming. It was just a question of where it was coming from, as opposed or when it was coming, as opposed to if. To me,
I mean, what I would say is obviously, I think we were knackered. Near the end of the game, they were just completely exhausted. Now, I think when you looked at it, we were coming up against Chelsea. No matter how they've started, they're a fantastic team. And we played them off the park at times in the first half, but then second half, I had no idea how we got the second goal because I was surprised we even attacked. And then next thing you know, we got a corner and we score. It was like, what? I mean, my little boy was sleeping. He wasn't after that second goal went in. I couldn't believe it. And then fantastic strike from Ramirez. And then it was all Chelsea. I mean, when Falcao come on, obviously I was quite pleased because I thought, right, they're never going to score now. But I think you look decent. You could tell you were missing Costa.
Big time. Yeah, I could just see that straight away. What I will say about Ramirez, I think we need to start playing him. We need him for the energy in midfield. Fabregas, I like him a lot, but he's just really slow.
He's not a player you want moving. You want him sat in that number 10, Fabregas.
Yeah, you just want him if you want to attack the game, you just don't want him on the pitch. Now we need to get back into it. We need the points on the table. I think Ramirez and Matic, maybe Loftus-Cheek in the centre midfield, maybe Fabregas in attacking midfield. It's just, what do you think about Chelsea's start? What do you guys think? Do you think it's as bad as everyone's making it out to be?
I think it's terrible. Genuinely think it's terrible. And I think if it wasn't Mourinho, I think it'd have been gone. I think Abramovich would have panicked and sacked.
I honestly think.
But I think whoever sanctioned the late start to pre-season, if it wasn't Mourinho, needs an absolute bollocking because I was just stupid.
If I was a manager at a team like Chelsea, I'd be training at high altitude in pre-season.
I mean,
fit as a fiddle.
I don't understand why they started late and Mourinho came out and said the first few games of the season they'll build the fitness up. You can't do that. This is the Premier League. It's not La Liga. It's not full of like very bang average sides for 90% of the games. You just can't turn around and go, they'll get fit in the first few games of the season. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You're going to get absolutely battered, and that's what happened, because he's an interesting stat that Ryan's picked out. Chelsea have conceded 2 or more goals in 5 consecutive league away matches for the first time since April to August in 1992.
Wow.
They've almost given up as many goals in the first 6 games as they did all last season.
I mean,
and that was a question I had. I will fully admit I don't watch Chelsea with super great intensity or frequency. But how much do you think, Curtis, that the turmoil between sort of like defensive midfield and the center back situation is taking its toll almost more psychologically on the team than anything else?
I think it's more. I think are you leaning there, Colin, towards the fact of like Mikel and Matic not doing the jobs?
Yeah, as well as you've got Zuma and Terry bouncing back and forth, and Cahill's in and out, and almost the head games that you get from Mourinho about who's good enough and not good enough, or fast enough, or fit. It almost feels to me like he's almost screwed around with the team to the point where some of them don't know what end is up, and it's not that the skill and the talent isn't there. It's just that there's just a lot of confusion in the squad.
See, I like Mourinho. Love him. He's brought. I started supporting Chelsea when Glenn Hoddle was the manager, so I'm not technically a Glory supporter, right?
Sure.
The thing about Mourinho, he's sort of like poison. Starts off okay, and then he gradually says things and does things, and then there's just people falling out, like with the doctor and
that was ridiculous.
The nurse. That was stupid. I mean, you don't say those things out in public either. If you want to say something, you do it backstage or whatever you want to say, but you don't do it to the press. It's just things like that. There's always controversy. There's always something negative going on around Mourinho. Tactically, he's great. He's just one of those guys. He comes and he goes. He comes, he goes.
You say tactically he's great. I'm a massive fan of Mourinho. I've said on the show for over a year, but we all 3 of us have mentioned, haven't we, Ryan, the fact that Matic has been given a lot more freedom this year, and when Mikel's come on, he's wandered past the halfway line like an excited schoolchild, and normally he would just sit, and it's like Mourinho said, right, I want you guys to pick the ball up, and I want you to move with it this year. And they've gone, but we didn't do that last year, boss. And he's gone, yeah, but this year we're going to try it. Don't worry, you can do it. And they both get past the halfway line, and the opposition's like, whoa, look, this big gap. And then they're in.
Do you think he's let the comments about parking the bus go to his head?
I don't think it's that. I think it's more just that maybe Matic has knocked on the door and said, come on, boss, give us a bit more freedom. I don't know, but something's been said or discussed, and the defensive midfielders now move with the ball more. Same with when they play Fabregas there. It's not get the ball and release it. It's run with the ball. And last year, Matic never did that. He would get the ball and release it, wouldn't he? And he was that guy who stood in front of the back two and protected them, where this year, as I say, he's running across the halfway line like he's chasing an ice cream.
And plus, he's 6'4" and he's a big guy. He can't be doing that for, a whole game. He's going to get tired.
It needs to be sorted, and it's still not getting fixed, because in the last few games as well, when you watch it, they're still running forward. And when Mikel comes on, I mean, genuinely don't know what he's doing. He comes on and then he slowly creeps towards the touchline to have a chat with someone, and they'll wander off the other side of the pitch. And then next thing you know, he's having a shot on the edge of the box. I've never seen him shoot in all the years he's been there.
It's a funny thing, and whenever he gets the ball around that area, the crowd goes shoo all at the same time.
I think the crowd want to say get back.
Yeah. I mean, another thing I've noticed, I don't know if the squad's aged.
Well, I would assume so. Everyone gets older. I don't know if you've discussed this or not. Each year someone gets you get a year older.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Ivanovic.
He's lost it. He's lost it.
Fabregas, I mean, he's still young, but he's been around for a long time. It's stuff like that. He's got a lot of miles on him. Terry, last season is, Captain America. He's just invincible, and now he's on the bench. I just think there's stuff going on back,
Yeah,
training ground. I think there's weird stuff going on, and I said that to my friend.
To me, the Terry thing is a great example of it, right? I don't care if, physically no human being falls apart that fast, right? He was phenomenal last year. He covered everything. He moved everywhere. I understand he's certainly getting older, and okay, maybe the same pace isn't quite in his legs, but nobody falls apart that fast. So I totally agree. I think there's something else, be it in the water or floating in the air, it's really driving it, because clubs don't topple like it. Just doesn't happen.
Sorry, go on, Curtis.
Aged is probably the wrong thing to say. It's just they just don't look the same. The way last year, as soon as we'd lose the ball, we'd be straight on it. This season, we're not. It's just there's something going on, and I don't know what it is.
Well, Ivanovic is definitely dreadful, Ryan. I know we discussed this the other day.
We did. He's looking old.
He's looking scared, isn't he, when he gets the ball?
Yeah, scared. I think it's going to be an area where they're going to improve in possibly January, if not the summer.
I think, definitely. We're going to move on to the next game, which is Watford 0, Crystal Palace 1. Now, going into this game, I saw the result. I'm going to say now before Fox in the Box messages me saying, did you watch the whole game? I didn't, because I was busy. I've seen the extended highlights of the game. Now, Watford, they played a lot better than the result says. When I saw the result, I thought, I'm going to have to pick some good points out of this, otherwise Fox in the Box is going to jump on me again. And I genuinely, once I'd finished watching the highlights, I was actually impressed. I said to Ryan, I said, cracking free kick, which hit the bar. Penalty or no penalty, I'm genuinely still unsure. The guy who made the tackle was inside the box. So if contact was made, it must have been inside the box. But the ball is on the line, and the player, Zaha, is outside of the box, if not half a foot on the line. So I'm unsure. I think it was a tough call, so you can't blame the referee. You can't say, you shouldn't have given it, because if we can't decide, then maybe he's gave the benefit of the doubt to the striker, which people are always calling for. So fair play for that. Again, and I've said this in previous episodes, which I know, Fox, you're not too impressed by, but Troy Deeney is looking like the weak link. Work rate can only get you so far. You need to put the ball in the back of the net. Otherwise, you might as well stick another midfielder up there who's maybe got a better passing ability, if that's all he's going to do. Watford as a whole, I thought, looked a lot better than what I was expecting, because going down to Crystal Palace, when you think, well, hang on, you've lost at home to Crystal Palace, you need to be turning these over. But Crystal Palace are a good side.
Very good side.
However much I hate saying this, because my opinion of Pardew's been explained in previous shows, but they're looking decent, and Watford tried their heart out. And unfortunately, they went down to, as we say, dubious, was it or was it not penalty. And again, as I said, the free kick, Watford could have had a goal there. They had a couple of other chances. It was definitely a game which I actually wish I'd saw now. After I saw the highlights, I was thinking, damn it, I wish I'd actually watched that. But yeah, that's we're just going to actually end by talking about tonight's game, Curtis, which was the Everton 3, West Brom 2. West Brom were 2-0 up, and obviously lost the game.
See, I did not watch this game. On talking to my friends on Xbox. They were telling me about everything that was going on. But Lukaku is actually my fantasy team, so I'm very happy what he did. With assist and 2 goals.
Can I just say, actually, that the West Brom fans did justice after they were losing the game 3-2 when Lukaku went off, and the whole crowd gave him a standing ovation, which was nice to see.
Yeah, that's classy.
But what I will also say on the other side of that, Ryan, is that the West Brom fans should be ashamed of themselves by the fact that when the team was winning the game, you literally could hear a pin drop. Somebody shouted, "Come on, West Brom." And when you can hear a single person shouted clear as day, you know the rest of the crowd's dead.
Yeah, I think there's an issue with some football clubs and their fans. They're not getting behind their team.
It was
as you
terrible.
would expect.
Absolutely terrible.
It is terrible, but that's football fans, and as much as we'd like to go in there and shake them and dance in front of them and say, why are you not supporting your club, singing your songs, you're winning? Some people are just strange.
I mean, what I would say, Colin, which was nice to see during the game, was Tony Pulis, who obviously is known for the long ball football, the direct play. The ball was getting out to McLean and Brunt on the left-hand side, and you could hear Pulis. This was the good thing about the crowd being dead. You could hear the manager shouting. Every single time he was encouraging, go past him, which was nice to see instead of just kick it long. He was encouraging the wingers. He wanted them to get past them and get the ball in.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. I think that Pulis is evolving some. I don't think he's quite the same lump and go guy that he's maligned for all over the place. But it is interesting. I agree. I think the fact that there are crowds in the EPL that you have no idea if they're there or they're not isn't a good thing. You kind of hope if you're going to go and put 20, 30, 40,000 people in the stands that you'd like them, you'd like the 11 guys on the field to know that they're there behind them. But yeah, it is kind of neat to hear some of those differences and know that there is at least some level of evolution going on at West Brom.
Some level. Just quickly go through some other news. So, Curtis, Lionel Messi's potentially ruled out for 8 weeks, but strangely enough, the Argentine doctor has jumped up and said that's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, I read something about this. I had 5 to 6 weeks as well. There were a lot of jokes about Ronaldo going to be the World Player of the Year and stuff like that.
That was my first thought.
Yeah, I just hope he recovers because I just love watching him. I hope he recovers fast.
In other news, not really football related to an extent, Brazilian football star Neymar, his parents have denied that he's done anything wrong after a judge has formally accused him of evading $16 million in taxes. That came out in the past as well, so I'm not surprised that's still going on.
Is this the same thing as Messi did?
Yes.
Last year?
He's obviously got some tips off Messi.
Yeah, they've probably got a mutual contacts, and it's friends helping friends.
Maybe. Lewandowski's memorable weeks continued. He's become the fastest striker to reach 100 Premier League goals for a foreign player. So fair play to him. I'm just going to run down the MLS results. Columbus Crew 1, Portland Timbers 2, New England Revolution 1, Philadelphia Union 1, Houston Dynamos 3, Colorado Rapids 2, Vancouver 1, New York City 2, Sporting Kansas City 1, Seattle Sounders 1, Red Bulls 2, Orlando 5, depressing Colin, Toronto 3, Chicago 2, Montreal 2, DC United 0, Montreal Impact also 2, Chicago Fire 1, 2 games for them, Houston Dynamos 1, Sporting Kansas 0. Colin, first off, you did not attend this game due to traffic.
Yeah, I got caught up.
Shame on you.
Hey, we tried. We got caught in Pope traffic due to the Pope being in New York City. So we spent a good 45 minutes in traffic and decided that getting there at halftime to watch a game that was already, not going terribly well wasn't worth the effort. So we listened to it on the way turning around to get some dinner, which didn't work out for me anyway.
What a weekend. But I mean, Colin, when I watched the game back the next morning, I kind of wish I didn't. Obviously, Red Bulls, we were hoping they're going to be pushing Galaxy close this year. 5-2 to Orlando. I mean, I genuinely have no idea what was going on.
Yeah, Orlando's clearly fired up, right? The 6th playoff spot in the East is well up for grabs between Montreal, Orlando, and NYCFC. So there's a lot to play for there. And all 3 teams are fired up for it. Kyle Laren, the rookie down in Orlando, is a goal scoring machine. The kid's had a fantastic rookie season, and the Red Bulls paid heavily for allowing him space and time to think. He netted a hat trick out of that whole experience. This is there are 4 Sundays left in the season before playoff time starts, and while the Red Bulls have clinched, so there's less traditionally for them to be playing for, since we're not a big trophy hunting team, but it would be nice with the new regime and the new push to kind of aim for that supporter shield. So, but this isn't uncommon for us to take our feet off the gas pedal at the end of the season, especially, with the playoffs either locked in or well in our sights. So I'm hoping that they kick it up a little bit over the next, we got a big couple of weeks coming with Columbus on Saturday and then Montreal on a midweek Wednesday after that. So hopefully we get our butts in gear.
Fingers crossed. I know the game that's missing here, Ryan, tut, is yesterday's LA Galaxy. Was it San Jose 3-2? I think it was San Jose.
No, I think it was FC Dallas, I believe.
Dallas
3-1.
3-2.
3-1? 3-2. Yeah, 3.
I watched the highlights of that again on the morning. I can't stay up that late. I've messaged America to change the time zone, but they refuse. So I watched that game this morning.
It's just one guy. It's really hard.
Yeah. Gerrard getting a goal. Whenever I watch LA play, I always like to watch how Gerrard's moving, because they play 4-4-2 where a lot of the teams up against them are going with a 5-man midfield trying to overpower them. But I'm finding Gerrard is just a class above in the midfield at the minute in the MLS, and he is literally walking around, Colin, and finding the space, which is just amazing to watch.
Yeah, I think he came in mid-season. I think Beckham helped him. I know they spent a lot of time talking before he came in, because usually mid-season designated players typically don't fare well in MLS. They tend to get exhausted by the travel in that. LA hasn't had as big and brutal a schedule, but you did see it earlier in August when they had to go down to Houston and play in the grueling heat, that he looked overwhelmed by that. But it is nice. I think his skill level is still a cut above the league here. Obviously, he's got fantastic vision and positioning, which plays a huge part in his ability to direct the game. And I think if you watch the spine I really enjoy watching out of it is watch Omar Gonzalez to with Gerrard and Juninho getting up to Dos Santos and Robbie Keane. It's an absolutely fantastic spine to a team. So Bruce Arena's got himself a really great squad. They keep clicking. They're going to be dangerous.
Tell you what I was thinking, Curtis, was how long are LA Galaxy going to hold on to Dos Santos, because he's obviously still only in his mid-20s.
Yeah, he seems to have been around for ages.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's just one of those players. Now, I wanted to ask Colin a question. How is MLS being received over in America?
So it's actually, this is probably its biggest year so far. So the showing at the World Cup last year really helped kick it into gear again. And then another good showing at the Women's World Cup this year has accelerated it further. A lot more purpose-built football stadiums are being built. A lot bigger crowds, coming out. So it's definitely pushing. I know MLS is talking. They've been in talks with the Premier League over the Anglo-American Cup that they want to try and institute between the Premier League and MLS to try and help drive. There's a big push to get the league up to be one of the world's premier leagues within the next 20 years. So it's exciting. It's a really good time. I think they've adjusted some of the rules so that you can get players like Dos Santos here in their prime, as opposed to like some of the Beckhams and that have passed where they're here past their prime. So it's an exciting time.
That's amazing.
Well, I mean, you sit and look this season, you've got obviously Toronto and the signings that they've made. Obviously bringing in like the little Italian wizard who just is unbelievable, Colin. And then you've got you've then got NYCFC and their signings. You've got LA Galaxy. What's that?
If you watch his highlights, and if you watch good highlights, check out Jervinko's flick goal from the Toronto game this weekend. That was an absolutely fantastic goal.
It's definitely an exciting league to watch. There's some great players now. We've got, just look and see what we'll run through. We'll skip the French league because it's the French league.
League all is good.
Sorry, Combi, you know your computer, so now I'm not reading through all them teams. So we're going to do the Bundesliga just quickly to finish off the show this week, because we have run over time. Curtis has kept us talking. So just quickly, you got Bayern Munich 5, Wolfsburg 1, Ingolstadt 0, Hamburg 1, Hertha 2, Cologne 0. Thanks to Ryan for putting all the scores right next to the numbers. Darmstadt 2, Werder Bremen 1, Hoffenheim 1, Dortmund. Hang on, these haven't been updated, Ryan.
I'm sure they have.
Unbelievable. Well, Dortmund played Darmstadt and that finished 2-2.
Blame Colin.
Blame Colin, he's been at work. Do you know, we'll ignore that. What a very, very professional show this is. We sat on our couch talking football and we've done this. I'll tell you what, we'll go to the game me and Colin watched. The Darmstadt versus Dortmund. 2-2, and it was never expected, Colin.
Not by a long shot. We've watched Dortmund beat up better squads pretty handily all season, and fair play to Darmstadt for getting in there and never, ever giving up.
One thing I thought, I actually was going to ask you on the day, but I wanted to ask you on here just to get your first reaction, was what was your thoughts of the fact that Dortmund looked better once Marco Reus went off? Obviously they were 1-0 down when he went off, and then they quickly came back.
Yeah, I was curious about that too. I'm not sure what to make of it. I don't know if it was just tired legs, one of those days. I wouldn't. To me, I'm not going to read too much into it. I think he's obviously a huge part of that team.
Well, I mean, if you then look back though to the previous game, he was benched in favour of Januzaj as well. So it's very strange that then when Januzaj come on instead of him, they got the 2 goals. Januzaj was involved. It's interesting.
Fantastic for Dortmund. I think he's going to prove to be a pivotal player for them this season.
What I will say is, obviously, you can check the scores of Bundesliga online. Ryan has just quickly copied them in, but just to wind up, I'm not going to read them out. So I want to thank Curtis for coming on this evening. Really do appreciate you coming along, pal.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Spending your Monday evening talking football. Nothing better to do. Fantastic.
What I usually do anyway.
Colin, as always, thank you for rushing yourself on when you've just finished work in the United States.
Oh, I love being here.
So as always, from myself, from Ryan and from Colin, we will see you all next week, or join us on Thursday night where we have Guido from Strikeless.com